Hey, what's up guys? My name is Clint and I'm glad to be back with another video here. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how I built this real estate web application using React.js. I'm going to start off from the beginning from a clean slate in VS Code. So feel free to follow along here. It's just a single page application. None of these links work at the top, so we didn't use React Router DOM or anything like that. If you want to take it upon yourselves to create some extra pages, then feel free to do so. And I'd love to see what you build in the comments below. But if you just want to follow along with me from the beginning, that's great too. I'm going to show you how to do everything. So we're going to start off with this this nav bar here at the top, a nav bar component that we're going to code from scratch. And then also this beautiful hero section here. And like I said, everything's going to be from scratch, including the CSS. I'm not using Bootstrap or Tailwind or anything like that. I think it's a really great idea to just sharpen your CSS skills, especially if your end goal is to become a front-end web developer. So nice hero section here with a full screen image. I'm gonna show you how we did this input. Scrolling down here, our next component is our little best rated properties here. I'm using CSS Grid, like I said, no Bootstrap or anything like that. And we're gonna use Grid for the layout of this application here. So the next component we have is a featured listings component here. And we have about 5 columns with our main image spanning across 3 of the columns and down 2 of the rows. The next little part is just the same thing, same component, we just swapped everything back around. And then of course a footer here at the bottom. So at the top we are using the useState hook here in React for our nav bar for everything to be mobile responsive. And of course, all our media queries are added here so everything displays beautifully. And one more thing, you guys, on our feature listing down here, we are going to use the CSS ordering property so we can have our images display in the correct order. I think that's a really, can be a little bit confusing, but a really great tool to use in CSS. So definitely something to sharpen up on if your end goal is to get a job with front-end web development. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how to do this from the beginning in a blank VS Code editor. If you're ready to get started, let's jump in. All right, you guys, here we are in VS Code. Let's go ahead and press the Control Backtick button and open up our terminal here. And I'm gonna go ahead and change over to my desktop here, and let's create our React app. So we're gonna type npx create-react-app, and let's just call this real estate app. Go ahead and press enter. This will only take a moment, you guys. Depends what kind of machine you're on. I'm using a MacBook Pro. So not too bad, just takes a few moments here. All right, you guys, it says happy hacking down here at the bottom. That means we are ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and pull over the directory we just created. So as you can see here, we are in the real estate app. That's what we just created. So I go into my source folder here, and what I'm going to do now is just clean up a few things. I'm going to delete this app.css, this app.test, the logo.svg, and also the report web vitals and the setup test. So let's go ahead and delete these, just kind of decluttering a bit here. I'm going to open up my terminal again with the Control Backtick button. And what I want to do now is, before we start our server, if we start it right now, we're going to get some errors. So to prevent these errors, we need to delete a few things here. We can delete this report web vitals. Then in our app.js, we can go ahead and get rid of this JSX there, as well as this here. And we can delete these, or we can just replace this with import React from React, and this is it here. So let's go ahead and just type in a little something. Coding, we'll just do this right here. So somebody threw some heat at me in the comments for saying hello world like all developers do. So not going to do that again, right? So in here, we are going to be using a package here. We're going to be using React icons. So down here, let's go install that with npm I react-icons. It's a super quick package to install, and we'll just double check here. There it is right there. Perfect. So let's go ahead and start the server with npm start. And we'll say yes here. All right. I need to make this a little bit bigger here. There we go. So everything is working properly. So to get started, let's delete this. And what I want to do first is just kind of lay out our structure of our application here. So we're going to be working within the source folder, and I want to create an assets folder. And this is where we're going to store all of our images that we're going to use for this project. And then also I want to create a components folder, and this is where all our components will live. So I'm going to shorten this down just a little bit here so we can see what we're working on. If you like to see what you're working on, or if you'd prefer the VS Code screen to be full screen, then please let me know down in the comments below and I can do that as well. Also, I'm zoomed in a little bit here, so it's a little bit easier for you guys to read. So getting out of that there, let's go ahead and add some CSS in our index.css file. We go ahead and delete this here. I'm only going to be putting a few things in here. We're going to mainly be working off our own CSS files for each component that we create. So, but just a few things in here, like some fonts, and then I'm going to style a button in here as well. So at the top, I'm going to paste over my font. If you don't know how to, I assume you know how to grab some fonts from Google if you're watching a React tutorial, but just go to fonts.google.com and you can pick a font that you'd like to use and you can import it into your CSS file, or you can also import it into your, put it in your index.html file here as well as a link. So, but I'm going to be working just in our index.css file for now. So what we want to do is to apply it all, we want to use a box sizing border box instead of the content box. And then we want to set our margins to 0 and also our padding to 0 as well. And I'm going to go ahead and do our list style in here. We want list style type to be none. And we want our links to text decoration none. And I'm going to go ahead and give these just a little color here as well. So let's just do this here. Color, say a little black there. And then in here, let's add our fonts here. So I'm going to delete this first one. And we do need to put this in parentheses. And the font we are using is called Railway that we just imported at the top. Then also, you guys, I'm going to throw in a container here. I know we could put a container as a component, and perhaps I'll do that in the future, but I'm going to just style that in this CSS folder here. And let's do margin auto, so everything is in the middle. There's a million different ways to do things, you guys, in development and programming, so just finding a way that works for you is the most important. So tons of different ways. This is how we're going to do it in this video. So let's create our button here with a little btn class. Let's say color, it's going to be white, and then our padding here, let's say 12 pixels, top and bottom, and 24 on the left and right. So we're going to use a background, have a gradient button here. So we're going to type in, linear gradient, and we're going to say 45 degrees, going to be straight across. And then our color here we're going to use is kind of like this bluish purple. 1E5, I believe it is. Perfect, perfect. We're going to say 0% down, and on the right side, we're going to use 709 DFF, kind of like a lighter blue here, 100%. Cool. So border, I'm going to say none. And let's do border radius, 8 pixels. So it's nice little rounded edges. Font size, 1 rem. Transition 0.4, because we're going to do a little hover effect on this thing. And cursor pointer. And see here, instead of, we'll say btn active instead of the hover. That'd be cool. Whoops. There we go. So for active class, let's do transform. We'll say translate for pixels. And a box shadow. Let's do 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 1 pixel, RGBA. Nice black here with 0.2. And border bottom, none. Okay, you guys, where am I messing up here? Left off a semicolon there. Perfect. All right, so I think we're done with our index.css file. I don't think we'll be needing to use that anymore. What I do want to do first is we're going to be pulling images from Unsplash. I've already pulled all the images that I'm going to be using in this tutorial. So feel free to go to unsplash.com and you can just download your own images. Since I already have mine picked out, by the way, these are all free, royalty-free images for anybody to use. So I already have mine picked out. I'm going to go ahead and pull them over here. We have 15 images you're going to be using. Like I said, feel free to go to Unsplash or Pexels. I think might use pexels.com. That's pexels.com. I'll leave a link in the description below, but if you want to clone this repository, you can as well. If you want to start from the beginning, you can go in and download these from my GitHub repository. So moving on, let's start off with our nav bar, you guys. So let's go into our components folder here, and we're going to create a new file. Let's call this navbar.js. Saw where I was going with that, and also a navbar.css. So in our navbar.js, I'm going to type refce. Basically, it's using React snippets ES7 to create kind of like a little boiler template here for a functional component. So what we're going to do next is, let's go ahead and link our style sheet. Let's type import, and then we call this navbar.css. And we are going to be using some React icons. So I'm going to import, and then we're going to do HI outline menu alt 4 from React icons.hi. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this down. I'm using 3 different icons here in the nav bar. I'm going to say FA reg times circle, and then also here BS fill house fill. Then very important, you guys, here we need to this little after the slash here, it needs to be the little beginning here. So this, we need to change this one to FA, then of course this one to BS. So if there's a way to combine all these on one line, let me know, you guys. So, all right. And we're also going to be using the use state here. So we'll go ahead and type that in as well. And we'll come back for our state. So let's go ahead and type in some of our JSX here, you guys. So we're going to start off with our div here. Let's just go ahead and give this a class name of navbar. And then in here, we did our container here. So let's just create a container. Like I said, we could be using a component for our container here, but in this tutorial, I just threw it in the index.css file, and that's fine. So within our container, let's do this. Let's create our h1. And in here, I'm also going to have a span with a class name. Actually, I don't think we even need a class name here. Let's just span and put our icon in here, bs fill house fill, and close that icon off. We're going to type real, and then on the other side of the span, we can type in state. So nothing is appearing here because we need to import it into our app.js. So this is our component here. So navbar. If you go ahead and press enter, it should auto import at the top. So I'm going to change this from a div down to a fragment, or you can just delete it like so. That works as well as fragment. So there is our navbar displaying at the top. Excuse me. So we just have our h1 here. The next, what we're going to do is we're going to throw in a button, and we style this on index.css with btn, and it's just going to say sign in. Perfect. Then after our button, let's do unordered list with a class name of Nav Menu here. And within this, we're going to have a link list item, and we'll have an A tag, even though these are not going to be going anywhere. Like I said, I'm going to copy this down a few times. Feel free, if you want to do this in your own video, if you want to create some custom pages for this application, I'd be really excited to see what you guys create. So if you do, be sure to post that down in the comments below with a link. So I'm just coming up with a little nav bar here. There we go. Perfect, perfect. And then just below our unordered list, let's create a div, and this is where our hamburger icon is going to be. So we're just going to a class name of hamburger. You can name it whatever you like, you guys. And then in here, we're going to have our HI. Is that it right there? Let's see here. I think that is it. Boom, there we go. Perfect. So that is what we're going to be using there. Let's go ahead and do some styling for this here. So here we are in our navbar.css that we linked right here. So Now we can start our styling. And let's give it a width of 100% with a height of, say, 90 pixels. Top 0, left 0. And let's do a background color of white. And border bottom, I just want a real faint 1 pixel solid. We'll do like a real light gray, just so you can barely see it right there. So let's display this here. Container. So everything is living within our container div here. So we want a height of 100%, display flex. And we're using we're going to basically only be using flex here in our nav bar. Everything else we're going to be using grid. There we go. Line items to the center, so everything displays in the center. And we'll give some padding. Padding of 1 rem. There we go. Perfect. So everything is starting to look a little bit better. Let's go ahead and I want to do some colors here. So the nav bar span, let's do color. And the color we're going to be using is 565. Same color for our buttons, 1E5, kind of like that bluish purple here. Boom, and there we go. And since this little icon here and the reel lives within our span, that changes those colors there. Next, let's go to our nav menu. Nav menu, and we want to display this as flex as well. So everything lays down horizontally. Perfect. Now let's style some list items. So we're going to do nav bar li. I'm going to give it a padding. Let's just do 1 rem. Then our hamburger. So we are scrolled down to a mobile size now, but since we haven't done any media queries yet, we want this to display none when at full screen. And let's make our icons a little bit bigger. So we'll say icon font size 1.5 rem. So let's open this up to full screen and see how it looks. Boom, that's looking great, you guys. That's exactly what we want it to look like when we're at full screen. Then of course, as we go down to mobile devices and tablets, we want to hide this here and also display our hamburger button. So let's add in some media queries. So media screen, and let's do a max width of, let's do 940. So basically anything under at 940 pixels and below, we're going to switch over and use this styling here. So display block for our hamburger menu, or our icon here, our div. And then we want, let's see, whoops, nav bar, nav menu. And here we are going to be styling our drop down here, or our slide out menu. We're going to slide out from the right. So we're going to position this as absolute, display as flex, our list items here. Flex direction, we want it to be column. We want to align our items to the center. And we want to start at the top 90 pixels, which is the height of our nav bar here. And let's do height. I'm going to drop down just a little bit. Height of 100%, the width of 100% as well. I'm going to scroll down so you guys can see a little bit here. Then just under our width, let's do a background of RGBA. It's going to be white, so 255, 255, 255, but we want just barely be able to see it. So I'm going to say 0.98, so we can just barely see it through. It's going to be a little bit see-through. And we'll do a nice transition. Let's do 0.4s, ease in and out, and then a Z index of 10. We always want this to be displaying on top. So then in here, we want to create an active class. This is how we're going to toggle our menu here on mobile devices. We write 0, and then let's make these icons, or these, whoops. Let's make these a little bit bigger, these links here, the font size of 2 rem. Perfect. So everything is looking good. Now it's displaying here constantly, and we don't want that. And I also left a space in here on purpose. So basically on mobile devices, we want to hide this off of the screen 100%. So boom, it's gone. Then we created a active class here with a right as 0. And what we want to do is every time we click our hamburger menu here, we want this active class to be fired off and display a right 0. So it is right here. So just like so, if we comment this out here, would be like clicking our button, and then boom, everything slides out. So I'm gonna go ahead and comment that back in. And I want this to be a little bit bigger. I thought we did that. Let's see what's going on here. Nav bar, icon, font size, it should be 2 rem. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? That is why we did not give it a class name. So let's change this back, whoops, to 1.5 rem, make this pretty. And let's give our icon a class name here of icon. There we go. Boom. Okay, that's looking much better, you guys. So we're done with our CSS file, but of course nothing happens now because we're going to use the useState hook. So let's go ahead and code some of that. So to do that, let's go into our navbar.js, and then we're going to put all of our logic here, right here in our arrow function, just above the return, okay? So for our useState, what we're going to do is type const, and then here we're going to type in some bracket. It's going to take in 2 values. So I'm going to say click and set click. You can call this whatever you want, you guys. useState, and we want this to default as false. And then also we want to say const handle click. This is kind of conventional naming here. This is going to be an arrow function, and we want to set the click to not click. There we go. Okay, so now we have our state defined here and our arrow function. What we want to do now is go down here to our JSX, and in here we want to see, let's look at our class name here, our unordered list, and we want to toggle the nav menu active and just the nav menu. So what we're going to do, we can actually delete this here. We're just going to type in right over it. Let's type in some curly brackets. Whoops. Then in here, we're going to say, if clicked, we want to display nav menu and the active class. Otherwise, just use the active class, or sorry, nav menu class. Perfect. There we go. And then one more spot down here on our hamburger div here is what we're styling right here. We want to use an on click, and on click, we want to call our function, our handle click function. And everything should work now. Boom, there it goes. But we want this, what we want to do, let me look at this. I thought it was playing from the right. See. There we go. I want it to come in from the right. And you can do this from the left or from the top or however, bottom, however you want to do it. But okay, back here, what we want to do, whenever we click our little menu icon here, we want this to change into the X. So to do that, I'm just going to start off right here. Let's open up some curly brackets. And we're going to say, if clicked, we want to display, put this in some, in the parentheses here. We want to say, this is our other icon we're going to be using, FA reg times circle. And we already imported this at the top when we created this, the nav bar component. Let's give this a class name of icon. So perfect, there we go. So if clicked, display the times circle. Otherwise, put this, we're going to display this one here. So let's go ahead and just cut this, and we'll paste it right in here. So if you can see that there, perfect. Oh, and we're getting FA times circle. That's because we're getting an error down here. That's because I misspelled. CRCLE, cool. And there's what that is. So let's go ahead and click, and everything should be working properly. So yes, everything you see it change over to our X here. Boom, there you go. And if you want to look at more React icons, you guys, here, whoops, React icons that was it right there. So you can go through here and just select whatever you like. For example, I always do menu. So you can use all different kinds of icons here and you just import them. Then like I said, when you import them at the top, be sure to use the little text here at the beginning, like RI. So it would be basically when you import it, it would be React icons -RI. So just whatever icon you're selecting there. So just so you know. So it looks like our nav bar is now complete, you guys. So to move on to our next section, the next section we're going to be, or component we're going to be creating is our hero component. So let's go ahead and close this. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I opened this. That's annoying. Close the node modules. So in here, yeah, I was going to create a folder. Let's do this just to make things easier. So this nav bar, I'm going to select these two files and move them into the nav bar folder. And yes. So what it was asking you guys, do we want to update the route right here? So what we did inside of our components folder, instead of having a nav bar and hero component, what we're going to do is inside our components folder, we're going to have separate folders within there. And then we're going to have our navbar .js, have our components living within our folders, just to be a little bit more organized. So what it just asked me if I wanted to update this little file direction here. So yes, we do. And back here in our hero, let's go ahead and create our hero component. So it's going to be hero.js, and then also let's create our hero.css. So in here, RAFCE will generate, our functional component. Close that there. And then in here, we can go ahead, hero, enter to auto import. There we are at the top. So now we are ready to go. So let's start off. We're going to give our div here the class name of hero. And then within here, div with the class name of content. So since this is going to be a full screen here, the complete width of the screen, we're not going to be using our container at all, even for our text within there. So create an H1, and we're just going to say find the perfect place. There we go. Cool. And then our p tag here, let's give it a class name so we can edit that search text. There we go. And we're going to say search the largest selection of luxury high-rise apartments. What else do we say here? Apartments, and we'll say multi-family. And we'll say this, whatever. Cool. Just get some text in there, you guys. Not important. So below there, just below our p tag here, let's create our form. So I'm going to say form with the class name of search. There we go. And in here, we're going to have a div with an input type text with a placeholder of enter keyword. And again, you guys, in React, you can go as detailed as you want as far as the components go. We could have a form component. In this video, to keep it easy and clean, we're not going to be doing that. So like I said, we're just going to be typing it all out here and breaking it down into just components of our little sections on our website. So that's as deep as we're going to go in this tutorial. So class, we want a class name of this next div here. And let's say radio, because these are going to be our radio buttons. So what we're doing now, you guys, right in here, this is our little search section here. Is what we're coding right there. And what we want to do, yes, we're going to get some errors, so that's okay. So this is what we're going to be creating. It didn't auto close that. There we go. So inside this div that we called radio, we're going to have input type, of course, radio. And let's have this one checked as default. And down below, we're going to have a label. Label. This is by. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that down. I don't want this one checked. And this one is just going to say rent. There we go. Both types are going to be radio. And then let's have a little button down here. Type submit. And nothing's going to happen when we submit this, so it's okay. AI outline search is the icon we're going to be using. Let's give it a class name of icon there. Perfect. And we'll close that off. Just like so, you guys, so you can see everything. It's giving us an error. That's because we did not input this at the top, so or import. So let's import, open the curly brackets there. There we go. From, oh, I can't type today. Say from React icons. Then again, this one is going to be AI. Perfect. So, and let's go ahead while we're at it here, import our style sheet. It's going to be hero.css. Perfect. So that is it for as far as our JSX goes. That is all that we're going to have there, all our information. Let's go ahead and style this thing so it starts looking nice. Get some coffee here. So to start off at the top, this is our hero section. And let's give it a background color, because what I want to do is give this a, I'm going to give this an overlay. So we're going to say RGBA. It's going to be black. So 000. And then we're going to give it a 0.5 on the output there. So we can have just a little bit of a see-through there, kind of like a dark color tint. Then color is going to be white. There we go. Height is going to be 80 viewport heights. And the width is going to be 100%. Position is going to be relative. Very important because we are going to put an image back there. So, and that is how we're going to do this. So for our image, margin bottom, let's do 4rem on the bottom. So for our image, let's do this next. It's going to be hero B4 selector here. Make sure we type content and then give it some empty quotes there. And our background is going to be, let's say URL. Open this up, make sure we do some quotes here. And we're going up out into our assets folder. And what we're going to use is the hero-img.jpg, like so. And then we want no repeat. There we go. Center, and we want this to cover the entire section there. Let's define some dimensions here. 100% and width 100%. And this is of the parent container. The position needs to be set not as relative, but as absolute. And then top 0, left 0. Then let's do our Z index, -1. Oh, hi, there we go. So notice we can change this if you want it to be real dark, so you can barely see through it, or real light, almost no change there. We're going to keep it right there at the middle at 0.5. Now let's go ahead and style our content div, which is just this information in there in the middle. So scrolling down, let's do hero content, and let's do a height of 100%. And we're going to display this as flex direction, column here. And let's justify the content to the center, text align to the center. Let's do a max width. Let's do 700 pixels. Margin auto padding 1rem. There we go. Now let's style our text here with our H1. So we're going to say H1. Let's do a font size. Let's do 3.5 rem, maybe about 50 pixels or so, and a little bit bigger. Let's do text transform, capitalize, and this will change it so just the first letter of each word is capitalized there. All right, so next is our search text. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. So hero, we called that search text. This is our p tag here. I think we just did it like that though. Let's give a margin 1.5 rem on the top and bottom. It's just a little bit extra area. And let's do font size 1.4 rem. Not happening. Did we type text? Yeah, we did. That was the issue. There we go. Boom, and there we go, you guys. All right, so the next part is the search form itself right here. So we want to turn this ugly little mess right there into this beautiful input form there. So to do that, this is what we're going to be starting here. So this is selecting our form here. We want to display this as flex, and let's give it a background color of white here. And our text is going to be black. Let's justify the content to space between. That's going to shove across our radio buttons and our input there. Line items to the center, so everything kind of is in the center of the form. Border 1 pixel solid, and then just that real fine line there. Let's give it padding of 4 pixels and a border radius of 8 pixels. So we have some rounded edges. There we go. So in here, search, and then what we're going to target next is our input, but we're going to target our text input. And this is how you do that without adding some extra class name. So we can type input, then some curly brackets, type is equal to text. So what that's going to do is going to target only our text inputs and not the radio inputs. So what we want to do is say border transparent, background color won't be transparent, width we're going to say let's say 400 pixels, and we'll do some media queries if it's not looking correctly there. So font size, let's do 1.2 rem, and want our font family to be Railway, you guys, so it can look like the font, the same font we're using on our website. So, but don't forget, it's always a good idea to add in a secondary font just in case the browser does not support that. So everything is looking kind of funny right now. Don't worry, we haven't finished our styling or our media queries here. So notice how you select it here, you get this ugly blue outline. We don't want that. So what we want is no outline at all. So I'm going to show you how we do that right now. And to do so, I'm going to type in search. Basically, same thing we did above. We're going to target this, our type text input. There we go. And then, but what actually we also want to add right here is the focus tag there. And just say outline none. And that will take that away, you guys, in Google Chrome. So moving on, let's style our label. So search label, we'll say padding 0, 14 pixels, 0, and let's do 8 pixels on the left. And search radio, display flex, line items to the center. Let me make sure we did not put a class name on there. Let's see here. We can go, this is our div that we're styling here anyways. So starting to look a little bit better, but we still have some work to do here. Let's go back in here, and this is our div that we're styling here, by the way, not the actual radio buttons. So apologies for any of the confusion there. So next we're going to do search, and we're going to target this button here that we can't really see because it's off the screen now. We're going to say background image. We're going to do our linear gradient again. You know what? Let's just go into, those are that. Let's go into our index.css, and let's just copy that just to make it easier here. Close that, and then we can just paste it right there. Perfect. Make everything easy. Border, we're going to be 1 pixel solid, and then use that same color as we did above. 565 1E5. Perfect. Color of white. Padding 10 pixels. Border radius, we want to say 8 pixels. And cursor pointer. So let's see how this looks full screen. It's looking, that's perfect. That's exactly how we want it to look. As we go down to our mobile device is not looking so great. So let's go in there and make some changes with our media queries. So as we're done here, let's go do our media queries, media screen, and let's do a max width of, we were doing 940 pixels on the last one. So let's keep it consistent. And we want to change this, our hero, let's change the height to 70 VH if we're below 940 pixels. Makes it a little bit shorter on the screen. Then hero, container. We're not even using a container there. So H1, we're going to shrink the font size down a little bit, just a 2.5 rem. And here are our search input, type equal to text. So our width 100%. Let's see how that's looking. Perfect. All right, you guys, that's looking a little bit better there. Perfect. Actually, I think that about wraps it up. Let's open this to widescreen. Everything is displaying beautifully. As we go down, got our nav bar here with a nice transition. All right, you guys, that looks pretty good there. So the next section we're going to be designing is our best section here, kind of like with our grid here. So let's go ahead and jump into that one next. What we're going to call that is best. So let's close this out. And we have our folders here. Let's create in our components folder, we're going to create, I'm just going to call this best here. And we'll type best.js. And let's do our best.css. RAFCE is going to generate our functional component and import our style sheet. There we go. And let's not forget to import this. Should auto import when we press enter. There she is there. All right, so now we're going to be using a few things here. We're going to be using a few images. So the way we're going to be using these images, well, let's go ahead and just start with our JSX here first of all. So we're going to type class name, that class name of best. Then in here, we're going to say H1, find best rated properties. Perfect. And then just under that, we're going to create another div. I don't even think we need a class name for this one. And have a p tag, and let's do a span with a class name bold. We're just going to make that some bold text right there. We're going to say all, and another p tag here, commercial. If I can spell there, commercial. Let's copy this down a few times here. Residential. Cultural. Culture. Okay, make sure I spelled this right. Okay. And underneath this div here, let's do our container here. Class name. Container. All right there. And underneath here, we want to have our images. So image source, then put in some curly brackets here. We're going to say alt, leave that there. React does like to throw a fit if you don't have an alt in there. There we go. And let's do our button here. Don't worry about the errors. We're going to come back and fix that. Class name, btn, and we'll just say view all. So we're getting the errors because we have this image tag here with no images. And the images we're going to use here is the apt1, apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3. So the way we're going to display these images here in React, we have to import them at the top. And you can call them whatever you like. You don't have to call them the name of the file. This is just what I'm going to do just to keep things easy. And we're going outside this directory into, the assets and apt1.jpg. Let's copy this down. This is going to be 2, and this one is going to be 3. And again, you don't have to name these. You can name this whatever you like. And then down here, you just call whatever you named it. So this one's going to be apt1. Then here, bt2, and apartment 3. So now our images should be displaying here, and they're not. What's going on here? So let's see here. Oh, there they are. Cool. Sometimes you just need to reload. So as you can see, they don't look very nice here because nothing has been styled. That's okay. Let's go ahead and do our styling. That is it for our JSX for our best component. Moving into the styling, let's go in some room here, and we'll type C best. Give this a width of 100%. Have margin 4 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. We want everything to be text aligned to the center. All right, and then best, and we're using the immediate div there since we didn't give it a class name. We'll display flex, display content to the center, and also best, div, and then the p tag in there. We want the margin to be 1 rem top and bottom, 2 rem left and right, font size 1.2 rem. And then we did that span with a bold, font weight 700 to give this a nice little bold section there. So I know we can't see everything too well. That's okay. We're going to fix that here in just a moment. So let's do the best container now. And actually, yeah, let's go on. Like I said, we're going to be using a grid. So let's display this as grid. And we want to display 3 columns. So we're going to say grid template columns, repeat 3, 1FR, because we want it to be 3 equal columns. And we're going to use a grid gap 1.2 rem. There we go. And let's use padding 1 rem. So this grid gap here is just going to be 1.2 rem units in between each photograph. And let's target our images here. Last image, let's say width 100%. So let's scroll up to a full screen. That is displaying correctly as far as full screen goes. Is within our container here, same as our nav bar here at the top. And we have 1.2 rem units here as our grid gap. Everything is displaying perfectly, but we need to do our media queries. Let's jump in with a media screen and let's do a max width. I'd like to keep everything the same. Let's say 940 pixels. We might have to make this a little bit bigger. Let's have a look though. So we want to change this margin to 1 rem instead of, I think it was like 4. And then let's go down here to best. I'm going to make this a div p tag, say margin 1 rem, and then also font size. Just shrink it down a little bit to 1 rem opposed to 1.2. And what we want to do for our container, our grid here, when we're below our cutoff here for our pixels, we want to display instead of 3 columns, just 1 column. So we already have the display grid. We don't need to do that. All we need to do is say grid template columns 1FR. And let's change the grid gap from 1.2. Let's just call it 0.5 rem. And padding, well, I think we already have our padding at 1 rem, so we don't have to make any changes there. Scroll down. That is looking really nice, you guys. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Everything is looking good. Perfect. Perfect. Now, if you want to go down to a true mobile device, if you just hit the select button, then I'm viewing on an iPhone X here. Really, really cool things you can do with Chrome, you guys. So what you might want to do is kind of a little bit more kind of brushed up on the edges there. So what we could do is add in one more media query. And we're going to be doing this on a few of the components, you guys. We're going to say max width 478 pixels, because the most you can scroll down before changing over to like an iPhone view is 500 pixels. So basically anything below 478, let's change this best div p tag, and we're going to say margin 1 rem and then 0.5 rem, and that should do it. Boom, there you go. So in this, as you can see here, we're at 375 pixels for the width. So really cool tool to use if you're using Google Chrome. So which I highly recommend if you want to become a developer. So moving on, I think that's it for our best section here. The next section we're going to be doing is our featured section. So let's go ahead and create our featured folder here. We can close that out there. So new folder, it's going to be featured. Then within our featured folder, we're going to have a featured.js and also featured.css. And let's go ahead and import this featured. And I haven't created it yet, so it's not going to import here, but let's go ahead and do that now. Import featured from components, and then it goes into a featured folder. Then we're looking for featured.js. There we go. All right, let's get rid of these since we are no longer using those. Let's create our functional component with ref ce here. And then we can go ahead and attach our featured.css file here. So let's go ahead and start with our JSX here. So the class name of featured, and we're going to be using a lot of images in here, you guys, and I'm going to import it over. This is what we pulled over at the beginning of our project. We're going to be using basically almost all of these here. So, okay, we have our featured class name here. Then we want an H1. I'm going to scroll down so we can actually see what we're doing here. Let's say class name, featured text. Let's say top featured listings. And let's go with a p tag. Say selected listings by city, state, zip based on views. And next, let's do our container here. So class name container. And let's do an image here. Image. Let's do a, let's see here. Let's do source. Kind of deciding how I want to show you guys this here. Let's do alt, there we go. And what we're going to do are two more, there we go. And then also another two. So we're going to have 6 total pictures here. And so what we want is this is going to be our main image here. And then we're going to have 2 on top, 2 on bottom. So 5 total pictures. Sorry. We can scroll over here. I'm going to scroll over a little bit bigger. So what we want is 1 main picture here, and then 2 more on the top and 2 more on the bottom. So yes, total of 5. And scrolling back down here, we have our 5 images here. And then we're going to have a div with a class name of span 3. And I'm going to show you what we're doing here with you guys. And details. This is going to be class name of top. What we're just coding right now is the address and the pricing. Say 123 East Street. We'll say Dallas, Texas. Perfect. And let's do class name price. 2,677,677. There we go. And then just below that div, let's create another div with a class name info. It's going to be info grid. Another div in there. This div is going to be class name of info. We'll do a p tag here. And let's give it a class name of bold. Say bedrooms. And then one p tag here, 5. And let's just go ahead and copy this down here. And instead of bedrooms, we're going to have bathrooms. We'll change that to 7. Now let's go ahead and this div here, without the class name, We're going to copy that as well. And instead of bedrooms, we're going to have square feet. And how many square feet is this one going to be? Say 8,138. And then we'll say estimated payment of, let's see, 14,797. Let's say a month. All right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let's see here. It's throwing some errors because of our images. So let's go ahead and take care of that right now. And let's get these images over here. So what we want to do, just like we've done the other one, we import our images. So, and again, you can call this whatever you'd like. This is what I'm going to be calling mine. So house one, and we're going to go in the assets folder. And this is going to be house1.jpg. I like to keep all of my naming as simple as possible, you guys. So house one, this next one is going to be bed one. We'll change this to bed one, bed two, and then of course we'll have the kitchen and bathroom, and this one here is going to be kitchen, and this one bath one. Cool. So let's see how everything is displaying here. Of course, we need to put these in here. House one, again, whatever you call it, you guys. Then bed one, bed two, kitchen, whoop, and then the last one is bathroom. Okay, and this is just one part, the top part of our featured section. Oh, let's go ahead and reload. There we are. Cool. So we haven't done our styling yet, but we have all our images imported and everything is looking like it should. Let's scroll this down here. And let's go into our styling, you guys. And we're going to be importing a lot more images because we're doing the other featured section as well. I guess we can go ahead and just do that right here. So we have our button in here. We do not. So underneath our estimated payment here, we're going to go down, see 3 divs, I think 4, because we want it just above the details. Let's see here. Yes, so just above our details here, or just below that. Let's give it another class name. We'll say span to right image details. And we have some text in here. I'm just going to copy this over, you guys, just to save on a little bit of time. Type whatever you like in here. That's all we're putting there. Beautiful modern day home in the city of full-size pool. Spacious luxurious home in Texas, including media room, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So now we have that in there. Let's not forget our button with the class name of btn that we styled in our index.css. And we'll say view listing. Cool. So that's kind of our first little container there. This, or first section. This is going to be kind of be second section here. So we're still going to be within here. Boom. Then our container. Actually, we probably want to be, let's do this. I'll cut that because we want to be inside our container still. So if we highlight this, boom. So yes, we're still in our container. This is exactly where we want to be. And what we could do, really, you guys, we could just copy all of this down here. Let's just copy this here. Well, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to think how we're going to do this. You know what? We had it right. Let's copy this down. We're going to go outside of that container, and what we're going to do is just create or use the container component again here. So what we can do is just select this right here, and let's just scroll down right here. We'll just copy that and paste it in here. But we are going to change some styling here as well as some ordering. And we need to import some new photos at the top. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy this down here. I'll give a little space just so we know what we're working with here. This one's going to be house 2. And again, all the names are over here on the left here. So house 2, it's bed 3. Oh, sorry, bed 3, bed 4. So bed 3, bed 4, and then kitchen. We could do bathroom 2. And say this one is bath 2, and then living room. And this is living room. Okay, perfect. Now house 2, let's go down here. It's our bottom. Find our second section. Here it is. Let me say house 2. And this is going to be bed 3. Whoops. And bed 4. And then we did bathroom 2. And I think we did living room. So now everything should be displaying here. Of course, we haven't done any CSS. Okay, cool. Those are our top images. And then our other images there at the bottom. We're going to need to, like I said, we're styling this in grid. So we're going to add in a couple more class names here. And going up top here. So this is going to be the most complicated component we're doing, you guys. And it's not that complicated. I know it just seems like it right now. But for this first image, our main image here, I'm going to give this first one a class name. And I'm going to say span 3. I'm going to have a couple class names. Then also, whoops, image grid row 2. Okay, you guys. And then down here at the bottom, for our second part of our section here, our main image here, what we want to do, we kind of move these things around some because we want this to display. I'll go ahead and give this a class name. Since we want it to be displayed kind of the mirrored section at full width, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to reorder it a bit. So class name, we want this to say span 3 image grid row 2. We'll come back and order it here in a little bit here. So I'm going to cut that one out, and what we want to do is place it just below there. I'm just going to give a little bit of space. You don't have to. It's just so it's a little bit easier to read here. And then let's see here. Going down, since we want to swap these things around, let's see, our order, our span. What I'm looking for is this div info. What do we want at the top of this second section here? We want, let's see. What we want is right here. I'm going to cut that out. And we want to paste that just below here. Making sure we're in the right spot here. Let's see. I think this is good here. Paste. I'm going to give it a little, whoops, sorry. Give it a little space so we can see if we're in the right area. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. That closed you guys. So right under here, we have everything is looking good. Perfect. Then we are info grid. Perfect. All right, you guys. So let's have a look. That should be displaying how we want it. Of course, we don't have any CSS in there. So make sure there's no errors. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do some styling. And then we'll come back and set our class names for our ordering. So for our styling, let's do featured, say margin, top, 5 rem. And sorry about that, you guys. I know it's a little bit drawn out. So But always good to be practicing up on your CSS here. Featured text, do text align center, and a margin 1 rem, 0. And featured. We're going to be using some CSS variables as well, you guys. So we're going to do that now. It's going to be a lot easier when we change around for media queries using variables for our gap and columns and row height and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is dash dash gap. And I've gone over some variables in the past in CSS using colors, but here we're going to be using, instead of colors, we're going to be defining some different variables. We'll say 5 columns and row height. Let's do 300 pixels. And we'll change that on mobile devices. So make that look prettier. So basically for CSS variables, you just put 2 dashes in front of your value. And I'm just going to add a little spacer so we can, it'll be a little bit easier to read. I want padding, there we go, 1 rem. And let's display this as grid, like we said, and we're going to be using grid template columns, and we're going to repeat. And then here we're going to be using our variables. We're going to be variable, open parentheses, dash dash num dash columns, then 1fr, perfect. And then we're going to say grid auto rows, and this is also our variable. So var open parentheses, dash dash row height, which is going to be our 300 pixels. And here, since our num columns is 5 columns, so our num calls right there. So that is 5. And this would be, if we want to change it to 6, it displays 6, or however 7, however you want it to be. So we want it to stay at 5. And then down here, say our gap, grid gap. I think grid gap is being deprecated, so we'll just use gap. So var dash dash gap, that is 1.2 rem. So let's go on here and style our images. So featured container img, we want a width of 100%, height 100%. And for our images to display properly, we're going to use the object fit cover so our images display properly and they're not stretched out or expanded, causing them to look funny in either way. So we're doing span 3, and we only have this on our main image here. We want the grid column to span 3. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy this down. We're going to do the same thing for span 2, the grid column span 2. And we're going to do one more. Let's say grid, I think we call it image grid row 2. We'll just say grid row span 2. So very important, you guys, when we're spanning our images. Whoa, you can already see it there. So make this full screen here. Perfect. So, and I know it's kind of a pain in the ass here when we're structuring everything, but we wanted the price and the bedrooms to appear under the main image and this little text over here to display under these secondary images. So looks like we are on the right track. We still need to do a few things here. So let's change this down there. We want this text to be centered. So I think we did that feature here. We can just add the featured text here. What's that class name? Whoops. Just like our H1. There we go. Perfect. Cool. Where were we? So right under grid row 2. Perfect. So we want this to be displaying properly as well. Our little information down here, we want these to just be bathrooms and bedrooms on one line, and then square feet and estimated payments on the other line. And we just want this to display on media queries under one fractional unit instead of 2 here, or instead of 5. So this is spanning 2, and this is spanning 5 or 3 over here. So let's go target our info grid here, and we're going to display this grid and grid template columns, and we'll say repeat to 1fr, Perfect. And let's have our little right image details, our BTN here. Give it a margin 1 rem 0. Perfect. All right. So let's go next to our top section here. So featured top, and we want to display this. This part we're going to display as flex, just a little bit easier here. Justify content, space between. See, there we go. It pushed everything aside. And let's align everything to the center. Perfect. So next, let's style our price here. I'm going to give it a little bit extra room. So let's do featured top, and we have price. Let's do a font weight of 600. Let's color to be green. I'm going to type in green, 008. Let's do that. Boom. I don't like using just actual colors in there. I'd prefer to use the hex code. Not all, some browsers will display different colors if you just type it that way. So something to keep in mind. So featured, let's do the info. Next, we're going to display this, display this as flex. Justify content, we'll do space between. The margin, let's do 0.8 rem, top and bottom, 0 left and right, width 60%. Okay, perfect, perfect. So a few more things we need to do. Of course, we need our media queries as well. I think we did a bold class in there under featured. This is for, let's see here, what's it for? Not for our labels. Margin right, 1 rem. Yeah, it is. There we go. So let's open this up. So everything is looking beautifully. Everything looks perfect here when we're at full screen. So this is how we want our layout. We wanted the second section to be kind of mirrored on this side. So we have the right image, or the main image, on the right side. But notice when we scroll down, I guess this is a bad example now, since we haven't done our media queries for our grid. But let's go ahead and do that so I can explain this next part. I think it would be easiest. So we'll say media screen and say max width. I'm gonna do this a little bit bigger than what we have been, just because we're gonna get some bigger images. And featured, featured container. And here we're gonna target our, we're just gonna change our variables here. And this is the easiest way to do it, you guys, in my opinion. And we're just change this to 200 pixels. So now we don't have to code any of this. We don't have to do all these extra selectors, because now when we're underneath our defined pixels here, we're just going to change out our variables. So a lot easier than going in and targeting each class here. Boom, there we go. Forget our colon there. And we want to change this span 3 when we're going to be on down at smaller dimensions. Let's just change our span 3 to grid column. We'll just say span 2. So apologies if that's kind of confusing there. So that should be it before we do our ordering. So let's scroll up. We still have this. So basically we changed our container. Instead of the columns at 5, boom, we changed this to 2. So when we're at under 1024 pixels, instead of 5 columns, we're going to display 2. So we want this main image to span 2, which is what we did. And also still going to be spanning 2 up and on the top and bottom. So that's correct. We didn't have to make any changes there. And all these images displaying properly as well. And everything, these are just going to be 1 here as well. Or sorry, span 2. And this as well. Now this is a problem. Now we got down to the second part of our featured section here. So it doesn't look bad the way that it is right now, but we want to have some, we want everything to be maintained and be consistent in our application. So we have our main image here, then our 4 alternate images, then our little information down here. And down here, it's going to like 2 alternate images, then we have main image, then 2 more, and everything's just kind of jumbled up. So we're going to be using ordering in CSS. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And what I'm going to do is just type in order 1. And I'm going to copy this down. If there's an easier way that you guys know how to do this, then please let me know. I would love to hear your ways as well. Whoops. And I'm just going to change that to 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, whoops, 4, and 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, whoops, and 7. There we go. So now what we need to do is go into our featured section, our second one down here at the bottom, and here's where we're going to be adding in our class names for our ordering. So to order number 1, let's go down here. What we want to do for what we want to display first, order 1 is going to be our main image. So let's see, our main image right here. We're going to add in right here, order -1, and it's going to jumble everything up. Don't worry, you guys. So here we have our main image, order 1. Now we just have to order everything after that. So after our main image, we want our alternate images here. So we're going to go ahead and give this class name order 2, and let's copy this and paste it in here, and this will be order 3. Whoops. Saying oops a lot in this tutorial. That's not a good deal. All right, so there we go. Everything is looking as it should. And let's do order the 3, then 4. This one is going to be, well, whoops. Order 4. Just messed this up. There we go. Order 4. This one is going to be 5. Perfect. Everything's looking good. Now we just need to move these 2 divs down there below as well. So the next one, that order 6, is we want the price. So this one right here, say order -6, and then our info, finally, order 7. So boom, and move that one as well. So we should have our second section basically copying this one as we scroll down. So we have our main image, 4 alternate images, yes, pricing, and then our info down there at the bottom. So, and of course, when we go to full screen, everything remains the same as a mirrored image. So that's how we do ordering in CSS. I know that was a little bit drawn out and a bit of a pain, so apologies. Thank you for sticking with me there. That wraps up our featured section. Almost done, you guys. Let's go to our footer here at the very bottom, and let's go ahead and create everything there. So we can close out these assets here, close, 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 and under our components, let's create our footer folder. Then of course, footer.js and footer.css, RAFCE, generate a component here. Let's go import our footer.css, and also in here, footer, press enter, get that auto import at the top. There she is. Okay, so for our footer, we're going to be using our React icons in here at the bottom for our, we're going to be using our social icons here. So let's go ahead and import these. Again, you go to React icons and you can look through all the icons and choose the ones you want to use. You can use FA, Facebook, and if you're using all of the same pretext of FA, you can just import them all in the same line, like we're doing here. So Instagram, FA, Twitter, FA, Pinterest, from React icon /FA. So if any of these, if this one was like a HI, for example, then we'd have to put it on a second line and change this to FI. But since these are all, FA, we can do it on the same line, like so. So moving on, let's go ahead and do our JSX here. So let's do a class name, footer, and then in here, let's do our div with a class name, social. And we want these to be displaying at the top. So we're going to do a Facebook class name, class name icon. Close this out. And I'm going to copy this down here for all of our icons. This one is going to be our Instagram. Next one is going to be Twitter. So Twitter. There we go. And FA Pinterest. So scroll down. Perfect. There we go. Still need to do our styling, but we are getting some content in there. So underneath our social div, now we want to do our container here, because down here at the bottom we have our social icons, and we're going to have 4 columns, and then grid columns, and then as we scroll down below our specified dimensions, we're going to drop down to 2. So let's do our container here. Then within our container, we're going to have a div class name. We'll say column. And let's have an H3 that says about. There we go. Drop that down there. Then we're going to have p tag company. I'm going to just copy this down a few times. Details, planning, about us. Whoops, you know what I'm typing here. Details, planning, and about us. There we go, cool. So this is our column, and I'm gonna go ahead and copy this down here to save some time. 2, 3, and 4. There we go, and instead of this about, we can just say company, and we'll say legal. And this last one, we can just say information. I'm going to leave all this the same, you guys, since it's just a tutorial, but you get the idea. So that is it for our JSX. Let's jump in and do our styling here. Give it some room. So our footer here, we want to display the width at 100%. Padding, we want to do 2 rem on top and bottom, 0 left and right. For the background, let's do a background color here. It's not quite going to be white. It's going to be a very, very light gray. Boom, there you go. Just to give it a little contrast there. So, footer container. We want to display this as grid with the grid template columns. There we go. We want to say repeat for 1 fractions. There we go. I want to do our gap here. I was going to type grid gap. I'm in a habit of typing grid gap. We can also just do gap there. So boom, 1.2 rem, keeping it consistent throughout our site here. So footer, column, we're gonna say margin auto. And let's do our footer H3. And let's give it a margin 0.8 rem there. And 0 on left and right. I think that should be good. And footer p tag. Margin 0.4 rem, and then 0 left and right. And for our social buttons, we want those to be in the middle. So we'll say footer social. Whoops, let's just say text align to the center. I'm gonna scroll down here so you can see. And let's change up these icons a little bit. So footer icon here, what we want to do, make them a little bit bigger fonts. So let's go 2 rem. 2 rem there, margin, say 2 rem top and bottom, 3 rem left and right. And let's do the same color as our buttons here, which if you can't remember, it's 5651E5. Boom, there we go, perfect. So let's do our media queries as well here, so everything is displaying properly. And say max width. Let's go back to what we've been doing. Let's say 940. Let's say 940 pixels, footer, container, and instead of these 4 columns, when we scroll down, let's change the grid template columns to 2. So we'll just type repeat to 1 fraction, so everything's equal. And let's do our gap of 0.5 rem there, perfect. And let's target our icons here. Let's just take down the margin a little bit to 1. Let's see how that looks here. Oh, not icons, but icon. See how that looks. I want this to shrink down a little bit here. So 1 rem. What's going on here? So that is looking correct. Footer. But for some reason, let's see here. We want our icons here because we have them 2 rem. Let's have a look here. Inspect. Social. Footer, social, text align center. And footer, let's try this here. What is going on here? Let's just do this to see if we're even targeting it here. No, so something's going on here. Footer, social, let's go back into our footer.js. Social. What is going on here? Let's see. Sorry, happens to the best of us here, you guys. Apologize for this. So footer, why is this not footer icon? Is this even working? What's going on here? It is working. There we go. Comment that out. What is going on? This isn't like working at all here. Oh, here's a problem. Whoops. So, boom, there we go. Sorry about that there. I didn't know there actually absolutely had to be a space there. So apologies for that. Just change that back down to 1 rem. Perfect. And let's get rid of that. Close our development tools there. So there you have it, you guys. Let's look at our full screen to see what we created. Go back to the top. So here we have our icon here using React icons, and then our nav bar. Scroll down, make sure everything working properly. There you go, our use state hook for our mobile responsive nav bar. And we have our custom input section here in our hero component. Everything is displaying properly with our object cover. So our image is displaying as it should. Nothing's being distorted or stretched in any way. Scrolling down, we have our grid section here. Scrolling down, just make sure, I like to go through my project and make sure everything is responding how I want it to with our immediate queries here. Everything is looking good here. Perfect, perfect. Down to our featured section here. Everything is displaying perfectly. There we go. All right, you guys, and just double checking our footer as we go around, should change from 4 columns to 2. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's bring that back up. Well, thank you for following along today, you guys. I hope you liked what we built. I hope you learned something. If you did, then please like the video and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be pumping out some more React content. Like I said, I've been learning React lately, and I'm absolutely in love with it. So much fun to learn and develop on. So please subscribe to the channel, and in the future, I'm going to be working with some more API projects and also some full stack, maybe some MongoDB as well. So thanks for following along, you guys. It's been fun. I will see you on the next one.